case, guys, it's about critical thinking. It's about thinking. It's about considering the consequences of events. It's trying to figure out why people did what they did. It's also understanding that the people of the past might have looked like us, but they weren't like us. They operated under different sets of rules, different sets of values, different sets of knowledge. And they acted based on what they knew and believed and valued at that time. And so here's another aspect that we have to consider when we think about the past as historians. I can't judge the people of the past by the standards of today. They're totally different. You can't even necessarily judge the people of 2 or 3 generations ago by today's standards, because they can be so different. And so we have to shape all these things into our mindset and other things as well. And along the way, what do? We ask questions. That's the basis of what we do. We ask questions. And we're like journalists. We ask the journalistic questions. Who, what, where, why, how, when, and the most important question, which is one journalist asks, but is the essential question that a historian has to ask, and that is, so what? So what? What's the significance of the event? What can we learn from it? What did people in the past perhaps learn from it? So what is what we seek. That's the answer we seek. All the other questions are the way we get there. So the historian's world is a world of questions. It's a world of possibilities. It's a world of creativity. It's a world of imagination. Remember the old openings of the Twilight Zone? Unlock the door with the key of imagination. Well, that's what we do. We unlock the door to the past with the key of imagination. And the imagination begins with a question. Why did Theodore Roosevelt bully Panama, or bully Colombia into giving up Panama so we could have canal? Okay? Something like that. Okay? And if you want to create disciplined minds, you have to focus on critical thinking.
If you were asked as a consultant to work with a school district around here to redesign the curriculum for history in high school, because Gardner makes the point that you start in high school to really think about teaching the disciplined minds, what would be the first 3 things that you would recommend to the school district to do?
I'm in Ohio and not Texas.
Pardon?
I'm not in Texas, I'm in Ohio.
No, you're right.
We've got to consider the state. Okay, in Texas I'm going to have a textual problem to begin with. Good question. First thing I want to do really is to walk away from the overemphasis on factual information. Okay. You've got to present this. There are ways to do this through reading that don't have to involve boring textbooks. And textbooks are written, at least in my discipline, not to stimulate, but to sell. So we avoid being provocative, okay? I want to be provocative. Do I have to worry about parents?
No.
No? This is the idea, I don't have to worry about parents. Fine, I want to be provocative. I want students to experience, actually I would have them read monographs appropriate to the age level, with the teacher serving it as something of the living textbook. First thing I would do. Secondly, I would design projects that are designed to get them to think about historical consequences. In other words, the famous the woman who was teaching 8th grade in Tennessee, and they collected, you know what I'm talking about, paper clips. They collected 6 million paper clips to represent the 6 million dead in the Holocaust. Think about 6 million paper clips, all right? That gives you a really good idea of what 6 million is all about. So I look for projects like that that help you understand the consequences of events. And finally, and these will be designed to promote critical thinking, finally, I'd have them write. And not write simple stuff like who won the I'd have them write things again that especially high schoolers need to start thinking about. They may not work at the graduate level. The questions I give in my survey class are appropriate for grad school too. Read about the Mexican War. I can put you to a website that gives you both sides of the Mexican War, the Mexican view and the American view. Say, look at this website. Was the United States justified in going to war with Mexico? Were the Mexicans looking for war? Show me why you think this way. And you teach them to cite the sources. You teach them to look at it. They don't really learn that very much. When I see papers done by high schoolers, source citation is a marginal thing. In other words, however I designed it, the focus would be on thinking. Thinking and then expression. You demonstrate that you can think. Tony and I were talking about this earlier today. You demonstrate that you are thinking by expression, either orally or in writing. Okay? Memorization of facts can be the first thing out the window. Okay? I think that we have to help shape minds to become disciplined. Whatever area that you choose to pursue, you need to be lifelong learners. As educators, as business people, as politicians, as lawyers, as scientists, as artists, as historians. My wife's an artist. And she's constantly, she's a very skilled artist, Rachel's seen her work, and she's becoming more known in her medium. She's constantly reading. She reads about the great art, she reads about technique, she reads about theory. She observes. We rarely go anywhere where she doesn't see some interplay of light. She thinks about it a lot, okay? She thinks about other things too. But part of this process is I would have to design the curriculum in such a way across the board, not just teaching history, to infuse this sense of commitment to lifelong learning. Because
and this might be one of the aspects that you disagree with him on, but he says essentially that being a historian, you need to place yourself in the setting and then essentially in the skin or the brain of the persons or participants involved. Is that really what you feel like history is? Or is it necessarily just putting yourself in that situation and asking, so what, or what comes from this? Or is it actually putting yourself in the brain of Hitler or any other
figure? It would be nice if we could do that. What do we know about Hitler? I mean, what are the sources of information we have about him? And I'll get to, this will lead to the answer. We have Mein Kampf. We have all the other documents that he wrote.
Right.
So those give us insights into his mind. We have his speeches. We can see what he says on film. Okay? Does that help get us into his mind? Sure it does. Try to do that. And there are those who believe in psychology that is playing a role here. Problem is you can't read body language unless you've got a film. Okay? So yeah, we try to do that. But you can only do this with the understanding that you're still dealing with areas of darkness that you will never entirely fill in. So if you can kind of do that, that's good. But what if you don't study an individual? What if you're looking at a social trend? What if you're looking at the immigration history in general? What if you're looking at the process of the slave trade and taking people out of Africa and bringing them to there, and you don't look at individuals? Yeah, you still use your imagination because you still try to imagine what that experience must have been like. You know, imagine yourself, one day, here you are in your home in Africa, and you live in a actually very well-developed culture. It's not like Kunta Kinte running around in a loincloth. These African cultures were actually quite sophisticated. And another tribe attacks you, and several of your tribespeople are carried off, and you're taken to the coast, and you're in a coffle, you're in chains, and next thing you know, you're being oiled up, and you're being examined, there are people looking at your teeth, and you're selected, and next thing you know, you're on this leaky wooden ship, and you're piled into a space with 300 or 400 or 500 other people, and you have about this much space between you, and you're taken up on deck once a day. Am I creating my picture for you? You see, you can do that, but you can never really know. So it's really a process of extrapolation. And this is why imagination is a very important part of the process. But ultimately, again, you can imagine how this must have felt, but you never really know for sure.
And having your students do projects, you do pretty much throughout the textbook. And I'm just wondering, so your students will understand what happened during those events and understand why. Are they doing these projects? Do they show the ability to retain that knowledge beyond the high school level, or is this college? You mentioned this is college.
You know what?
You
That's a wonderful question, and let me suggest this, okay? I would be ecstatic, and I think Rachel would be ecstatic, and I think our colleagues in the sciences would be ecstatic too, if we saw more students, and we get some who really are very well prepared and demonstrate the capacity to analyze and think. I would be so much happier to reinforce the knowledge, knowing that they already had solid communication skills and could start asking good critical questions. I'd be thrilled to death if I got that, okay? We'll reinforce this. You understand, you don't learn history in one class. You don't learn history here. You understand, the teacher is the least important part in learning history. This is where you learn history, ladies and gentlemen. This is where you learn history. It's in the books, in discipline. So what I would suggest to you is that if you can give them the basic story so that they know, for example, that George Washington is colonial, early national period, as first president of the United States, that Jefferson plagiarized the Declaration of Independence from John Locke and a couple of others and added some of his own words, and was the third president of the United States, and he bought Louisiana, and you know that the Indian Wars took place from early colonial times up until the 1890s, and the World War II comes after World War I and things like that. You know, if they've got the basics, okay, I blank on names and dates. I've been doing this all my life, and every once in a while you just, in my case, I've got too much stuff in here, and I'm getting old. And so forth. But you know what? If they understand the inherent basic story, but they can start to analyze and start to think about those so what issues, I'm fine. And if they come to understanding history from a personal standpoint, if you inherent basic story, but they can start to analyze and start to think about those so what issues, I'm fine. And if they come to understanding history from a personal standpoint, if you can instill that in them, get them to think about their family heritage, for example. That's a great place to start.